souls, and welcome to another episode of WTF What's the Frequency? The show where we aim to inform you, to educate you on how you can access the vibrational frequencies of the universe and create a better future for yourself, better health, and better mental well-being. And in having guests on this show that are able to demonstrate their own journeys or their own particular gifts, I hope that some of this will resonate with you and you may just pick up a couple of tips and put them into action and start seeing the results. So this week I've got a really exciting guest, Christy Levy. Not only is she a spiritual medium, she has the ability to prescribe particular Hertz vibrational frequencies to people that are suffering from physical ailments. And in listening to these, they actually are cured of those physical ailments, restored and returned to good health. Fascinating, isn't it? A new one on me, I have to say. So I'm very excited to be having a conversation with Christy today. So please join me in welcoming Christy Levy to WTF What's the Frequency? And welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Vanessa. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, it's our absolute pleasure to have you with us. And I've got so many questions I want to ask you because I've never really heard of anybody that does the healing in the way that you do. So my first question to you is, you call yourself a spiritual medium. That always sounds like an accusation, doesn't it? How is that? I didn't mean it to. How is that different from other mediums? Can you explain to our audience?
Sure. The benefit of a spiritual medium, and I will call it a benefit, is that if a person doesn't believe in life after death, right? Don't believe in it, then a transition loved one will come in and just help them change their perspective, right? Comes in and they get a completely different feeling about death in general. And that changes their perspective on their life. And in a spiritual reading, the loved ones come in, transition loved ones will come in with information that I couldn't possibly know, right? Just things, right? That are so out there. And they do that just a little bit, not to prove anything other than to let this person know that this is real and they can trust it. And then from there, the loved ones bring in spirit guides of the person I'm reading for. And that is where the information, they'll give them instruction, give them practices and things to do, and information about their life and their spiritual path and exactly how to move forward in ways to connect with their spirit guides, which most people, including me, didn't know they had at all or had access to. So it's
Now,
really about helping someone raise their perspective along their path.
yeah, and it's all about that really, isn't it? And I think however the information comes in, as you said, it's things that you couldn't possibly know. So it gives them the faith that you are genuine and that the information you're giving them is to their benefit. But something you said there, that because you weren't always a spiritual person, were you? You were a business person like me. Just before we get really into the spiritual stuff, can we just talk about that for a bit?
Yeah.
Because it's an interesting journey when you're not born into it, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, it really is. I had dabbled. My mother was very spiritual and she had introduced me to things in my 20s, but I was in my 20s. I did them here and there. So I had some awareness of meditation and some practices but it never was really something that I leaned into. And I was very into making money, right? I was all about cars and money and houses and having all the right things. That was just it. And I enjoyed making a deal. I did real estate and consulting. I enjoyed that. So I was very focused on moving up that ladder when I really found myself on this spiritual path and these gifts started to show up. It was not something I was thinking about.
It's
Yeah.
Funny, isn't it? Because we're both 80s kids, and it was all like, greed is good. Work as hard as you can, and you'll reap the rewards. And, now you and I deal with people that have got burnout, that have followed that ethos. I mean, you just can't work at that speed constantly, and you can't keep that achievement wheel going all the time
Right.
without some downtime, and we don't ever allow ourselves to, do we? And also being women, I think we were in the boys' playground, weren't we? Particularly in the 80s. It was tough. So we had to be so much better.
Yeah,
So,
particularly. Yeah. And you didn't, it was to try to find a way for me, it was to try to find a way to get as much done as my male counterparts, but still be nice about it. Because if I wasn't nice, they called me the B word, right? And I
oh,
couldn't stand, I didn't want people to not like me, of course. Oh, that was important that everyone liked me. And I think enough years of living in that kind of control, I had to have the money so that I could have the life that I wanted so that everyone would love me and respect me. Like you do these things because you think this is what's going to get me love. If I have the big house, then I'll be happy. If I drive the Porsche, then I'll be happy. If I get the right person, the right guy, then I'll be happy. And if my kids go to the right schools, they'll be happy. All of this stuff really took a lot of money because I was trying to control outcomes of things that I thought I wanted. And because everybody told me that's what I wanted and that's what I should want.
yeah. And it was like, very difficult to rein against that, wasn't it? I can remember a friend of mine deciding when she had a baby, she wanted to be a housewife, and people being really disparaging about, is that all you want to do with your life? But just picking up on what you said, trying to be perfect all the time, trying to be liked all the time, really heavy frequency. And also the fear of not having the money once you've got it, because you've leveraged it, haven't you? You've got the mortgage, you've got the car on the lease, the school fees have got to be paid every month. It's a lot of pressure, isn't it? It's a sort of,
Yes.
and it builds up over the years. So how did your spiritual gifts start showing up? Because for me, it was a really weird one. I mean, you're in the boardroom and you start getting weird messages and you think, am I going insane? Or should I really not do business with that guy? How did it show up for you?
Yeah, everyone has that doubt that I've got to be crazy. This can't be right. This cannot be happening. For me, I had found a podcast called Joshua Live, and I started listening to Gary, and he had a boot camp. So I did this boot camp. I just loved the words. They resonated so much with me, and it was just teaching me about raising my perspective in general. But I did this boot camp 8 times. And
What?
yeah, I did it 8 times. But you do the way he did it, once you were in it, you could stay in it for life. You could do it as many times as you wanted. So a lot of people do it more than once. But I did it 8 times, and as I came around to the last time that I did it, my perspective on myself must have changed so much, my overall vibration, right? My overall frequency, because it taught me so many things as I went through it. And it was an experience. I was doing actual exercises, doing work, I was meditating. I was, just doing gratitude. I was just different. It was a different way of living. And as I did that around the 8th boot camp, I was doing a little meditation one day and I started getting images, and I can't really make anything up in pictures in my mind. I have a little thing where I can't, if you tell me to imagine a yellow butterfly, I have to go to a memory. And if I don't have one, I can't picture it. It's weird.
Interesting.
So I got
Yes.
images and I knew it was something. And I also, so I don't know, started asking friends and saying, is this right? Did your dad like curry food? Did he have different weird stuff? And I started recognizing that these things I was getting were real and these feelings. And it came on like a tidal wave. The psychic ability and the mediumship, like all of a sudden fully realized. It was crazy. I thought I was nuts.
And did you sort of, my fear would be, because I mean, well, the healing I do is all about around energy. So I see energy, I don't see any dead people. And I did dabble a bit with mediumship once. And I did a couple of exercises and I closed my eyes. I did it when I was in bed. And I opened my eyes, I had about 20 people standing at the end of my bed. I was terrified. I was like, I can't deal with this. Please go away. I'm really sorry I summoned you. I'm not the one for you. Find somebody else. You know, it was too much. So is it a similar thing? People start appearing in front of you, or how do you control it?
No, for me, it wasn't like that at all. It came in, it was telepathic. It came in this, but I do get a sensation where it's as you see energy, I can feel it. I feel this coming from sort of behind me over my right shoulder. And my friends will see it now. They'll say, "Oh, she's got somebody," right? And there it is. And it just gets closer and closer, and I get sentient. I just know it's male, female. And then the messages start coming. And now in all different ways, I get smell different things. They'll send me, I can smell chocolate chip cookies, right? And just different things. And so then the messages come through, and I never really saw them. There were moments where I could see things out of my periphery and I would look, but then when I would look straight at it, it was gone. I
Yeah, it's
really don't
interesting
see
you
them.
should say that, because I get like it's like a very faint video clip. You know, it's like, you know, help me Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know, like that in Star Wars. But if I try and concentrate on it, the image is gone. And very much like you say, it's like you feel the essence of somebody, don't you? You can feel
Yes,
if they were strong or proud or aggressive even, or a leader of their community. It's a feeling that sort of wraps around you, isn't it, and lets
it
you know
is.
that they're there.
Yeah,
It's
just know. It's, "Oh, there it is," and I feel it. It feels different than anything else. The spirit guides come in a different way from forward, and I say that I see them, but it's not with my physical eyes. I just there it is. There's the picture. I see them. I hear something. I hear a sound, smell something, feel it, an energy. It's hot or it's loud, whatever. I just get it's all this sensory thing that's not really physical eyes. With my physical eyes, I've only seen a few things, and I had to rub my eyes. Am I actually seeing that? Or is that a third eye vision? That's only been a couple of times. I'm not even really sure why I was able to with certain things. But for the most part, I can't see anything. Really.
I love the fact that you're so honest, because, you know, I think we've talked about this before off camera. There are people that attach an awful lot of drama to what we do, and theatrics, and burning of sage and candles and owl wings. And I'm, you know, that's great if it works for you, but I'm business. I'm, you know, was a businesswoman in lots of ways. I still am a businesswoman. I want to be healed as quickly as possible. I don't want any woo-woo. I just want you to hone in, tell me what's wrong, and fix me up. And most of
Right.
my clients are like that as well. They're like, really didn't know what to expect. I said, you know, I'll say, were you expecting somebody wafting in cheesecloth, burning sage? And they always laugh and say, yeah, I was actually.
It was actually, which is such a beautiful thing about you that you're doing what you're doing, which likely was some sort of intention, pre-birth intention, whatever you want to call it, your whole life. But everything you did leading you to this point has made you who you are so that you could be this very direct, cool. I mean, you're incredibly psychic. And you're right. Most people like that are just woo-woo. I say, have climbed to the top of Mount Weirdo, right? They're just like, wow. And that's fine. I'm great. But I've really resisted that for a long time. Because I'm very normal. It's just this, because everyone can do it. And I think seeing someone like you, or maybe someone like me, doing this and using these abilities to help themselves and help other people makes everyone understand, wait, this is possible. I am pretty normal. I'm a soccer mom, or I'm this. Perhaps I could do that as well, because it isn't some voodoo priestess, right, who's living outside of a graveyard. It's actually a normal person. And I love that you do that. That's what you represent. And it makes it available to a lot more people.
Well, I think, you know, there's always the thing, there's always religion, isn't there? Some people think that we eat bats at night and stir cauldrons, you know, and, you know, we live at the top of Mount Weirdo. I love that expression. But everybody can access this. And one of the reasons I'm really interested in quantum physics is because it explains how you and I are able to do this. And I think one of the reasons we get on so well is that we're both from a business background. So we are really direct. It's like, yeah, I haven't got a week, and give me the fastest route there. In the quickest, I want to get there as quickly as possible. I want my clients, I said to somebody the other day, I don't want you hanging around. I want you healed and gone and making space for someone else. That's my job. It's not to cosset you for 6 months. You're going to get me for 6 weeks max, and we're going to get you better. We're going to get you over overwhelm and burnout. That's it. You'll be feeling great at the end of it. And there's no weird stuff that you have to do at all. I don't, sometimes people are a bit terrified, but we are their last resort, aren't they, when nothing else works?
Nothing else works, and they think I'm going to hand them a glass and say, "This is Eye of Newt, drink this," right? And it's no, I'm not doing that. But it is interesting that science and spirituality really used to be the same thing eons ago, right? A long time ago. And then there's this definite division. Okay, church, you stay over there. Science, you stay over there. And I believe very much that what I do is science. I have a class that I teach called QLT, Quantum Life Theory, and it is all about physics. There's no woo-woo in it. It is just absolutely scientifically what we know so far and why this stuff works, why I can get what I get. That's it. It's so simple. But everyone, that's hard. I just like that. The scientific way will take someone who's completely in fear of all of that and say, you don't need to do that. You don't need to sit and chant and drink weird stuff, right? You don't have to. It's scientifically, it works many, many ways.
Yeah. And, people say to me, how can you heal over Zoom somebody that's in America when you're in the UK? And I said, well, it's quantum resonance. Look it up on Google. There's plenty of information out there now. That's what I'm harnessing to send my healing, for it to have resonance and influence on somebody else. The distance is irrelevant. I could send it to another planet system if I wanted to. That's the ability of it. But you've got to have a very open mind. And the other thing I quite like about quantum science is the fact that it challenges traditional science, which is very cut and dried. It's like, I was talking to a professor of biochemistry the other day who'd done a TED talk about less is more. And she was saying that, science is so rigid. If you ask it a question, it will give you one outcome. And if there's any variation, you do the test again, to see if you can keep getting the same answer. But there aren't any sort of parameters for variance. And it's very determined by what data you're extracting. It's very difficult to look at the whole. Whereas what I love about quantum is you have to look at the whole to enable yourself to understand what's happening on a much lower level. So I find it fascinating, and I'm lucky enough to work with people that are able to explain it in really simple terms, because I hate the fact that sometimes things are made to be really difficult and complicated, and actually you can say them very succinctly and get the message across, and we could all be quantum scientists if we were taught like that at school, really.
I am the furthest thing from a scientist, yet I have a course that's called Quantum Life Theory, and it's simple. It took me a while, right? But you learn these things and then you break it down to make it easy. We're all raised with that Newtonian physics, right? Everything has to be predictable, and everything has to be separate, and everything can be separated into the sum of its parts. All these things about Newtonian physics, and this quantum physics, the new way, is all about connectivity. Yeah. It's contextual. It's all about that, and conscious. To some extent, Newtonian physics just didn't allow for that. The idea that there might be consciousness. And with quantum physics, you start to get this thing about, well, maybe, just maybe, something you observe, the consciousness observing it is affecting the outcome. And now we're on to something, right? Now we might have an idea. It's really cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And while we're on that subject, and you wrote a course on it, why don't you tell us how? What are the basics of your course and how it helps us? Because it's a fascinating subject,
It
and
is.
I don't
It is
want people to
really.
think we're
It is.
keeping anything from them.
No. It is really interesting. The basics of the course, Gary and I have done this together, and what we start out teaching is just helping everyone understand the pathways, the neural pathways in the brain, and how we learn something new and we make these pathways. Discussing just trying something new, turning left instead of right, getting up on the different side of the bed, beginning just there and starting to fire new pathways in your brain to allow you to just receive new information. Just to do that, we start there, and it's so very interesting. And then we have these pillars of this course where we take everyone through and begin to teach things like quantum entanglement and this sea of possibilities. And it really is all about talking about frequency, how what we've learned is that this vibrational frequency that we're all emitting, the one you're following out into this quantum field, really is your perspective. It's how you see yourself. So, how I see myself overall in life or in any particular area of life, whether it's my finances or my family, whatever it happens to be, that is reflected back to me. Every possibility for my next experience exists in this quantum field. Every time. Every possibility is created. We know that now. It's scientifically. So I can experience whatever I choose. That's going to be based on this frequency that I am emitting, where I'm going to go. So that frequency is my perspective. Then what can a person actually do to begin to change what they experience? Whether, just like you, this healthy version of this person does exist. How do they get to that in that quantum field? And you're using frequency to bring their frequency so that they are a match to that healthy version. It's so interesting how it ties together. And so what we teach is how you change your perspective, how you raise your perspective in this, so that as you move through all of the possibilities, you begin to experience and become a frequency match to more of what you want. And we teach about brain waves, getting into that gamma brainwave state, which is, again, just frequency, and helping people to understand how to reach that, how to get to that level of focus. So we do lots of exercises, lots of fun games. It's really incredible. By the time someone leaves, they can really understand and see a difference reflected back to them immediately in their life because they've changed their frequency. It's very interesting. So that generally, hopefully that covered a little bit.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because I've had all sorts of guests on here that have talked about, I had Wally Green on here, living on the street in a gang, carrying a gun. And the next minute, almost, he's the international face of, table tennis and is the absolute poster boy for it. I mean, what?
Wow.
Got sponsorship deals because he's, learned how to hustle, saw all the opportunities, grabbed the best sponsorship deals ever, and elevated his life completely. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And that's what I want people to understand is it doesn't matter where you are. You could be on the street. It's what's going on in here, how you think about yourself, where you want to be, or where you have a taste for being, so you don't attach any energy to it. Not wanting energy, desiring energy, deserving energy. But, that you are, if you think about things enough, if you imagine it enough, that you will get there. And endless people that have been on said, oh, I was at school just all the time. I just imagined myself being a media mogul. It's like, what? You were 12, walking around thinking, I'm going to be the next Simon Cowell. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And now you are.
They did it. Yeah. And they do it. And so there's so many varied ways to reach these possibilities that exist in these fields, this quantum field. And it starts up here. Emotion amplifies this vibration. So if you think about something and it makes you feel crummy, let's find a way to change that thought. Well, how do we do that? We do that by addressing things that you believe about yourself that are clearly untrue. I can't do this. I'm not this kind of person. People won't like me. Just like I said, if I don't make this money, if I don't live this life, I won't be liked, loved, or respected. Well, that is completely an illusion. And so, how do we help people soften those beliefs so that they can then be less limited, allow their thoughts to move up that frequency scale, the emotions to match it, and begin to see a different picture in front of them as they move through experience after experience? Things just change.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because so
Yeah.
many people say, I want to be rich, but they're terrified of it. I want to be madly successful.
Right.
Do you really? Or are you scared of it? Because it's, there'll always be those telltale little words, won't there, or doubts that come into the conversation. And they're the limiting beliefs,
Mhm.
It's like, somebody said to me the other day, oh, I'm going for a job, but it's, there's 5 of us and we're all really high powered. I don't think I stand much chance. I said, no, you don't at all. If you're going into it with that attitude, you have to go in with, I stand as good a chance as anybody else. I'm really good at what I do, and I'm going to impress the hell out of them. And I
Right.
said, I just want you to just keep saying that until you have the interview. And guess what? They did, and they got through to the next round. I'm yet to hear if they've still got if
Don't
they've
know
got
yet.
the
Right.
job.
There are so many little nuances, and I think I do a lot of private coaching as well as Gary and I teach courses. So we take people through in group coaching, and there's so many nuances to it. I've run into someone who really wanted nothing more than to be wildly rich, right? Which is not always the case. Not everybody has that big thing. And this was something for him that he really wanted. And as we spoke, I discovered that in his mind, his belief truly was that rich people aren't very nice, that rich people are jerks. And
Mm.
so, and he's a very nice guy. He is a generous and loving guy. That didn't match. He will never be rich as long as being nice and kind and generous is something he likes about himself and continues to do. He believes he's not the kind of person that can be rich. We found that, like, wow, what? Right? What? And then also working on this idea of the difference between what you think you want and what you truly want,
Oh,
which is quite different, right?
yeah,
If you had told me this
absolutely.
life, Vanessa, 5 years ago, that I would be a medium and I would be doing readings for people and coaching them and not doing my job and not traveling first class on an airplane and going all over, I would have said, "You're out of your flipping mind." This was not the life I wanted, right? But as I did the work, I started to let go of what I thought was an ideal outcome. I don't
Mm.
know that this is the right job for me. I don't know, but I know a feeling that I'm going for. I want safety, security, challenge, creativity. What do those things feel like? Now, it doesn't have to be specifically that job. That might not be what is the next best step for me. All I know is whatever it is, I want this feeling. So if I want to feel secure, fully secure, I believe that means a certain number of dollars in the bank account. But in fact, what if I can feel secure now? Because I always have been, even when I've been totally worried about money. I've always been secure. I've never been out on the street. I've always had a nice car, nice friends, wonderful food. Never. Why do I think I'm not secure? Because there's not a number in the bank account. So if I feel secure, the things that come to match that security come, but not until I feel secure. If I want to be successful, I have to feel successful because these things out of the quantum field, that frequency doesn't match. Black doesn't carry the frequency of white at all. Joy cannot carry the frequency of
Yeah,
anger.
you are. Yeah, that's it. And I say this to people all the time. We have, you can't be angry and in gratitude at the same time. So we have to sort of switch things. If you can start being showing some gratitude, even through gritted teeth, and your husband's left you, and the bailiffs are knocking on the door, and you're desperate to hit the gin. If you could just try a little bit of gratitude, it will flip you out of that. So
Right.
this seems like a perfect time to to take a break from I'm going to have a little word from our lovely sponsors, My Lifespring. So everybody, please stay with us, because we are having a fascinating conversation about frequency, spiritual mediumship, and we haven't even started talking about the frequency and the power of healing Hertz. So stay with us, and I look forward to seeing you in a few minutes.
Ignite your vitality. Meet the Lifespring Gold Card, a quantum leap in wellness. Revitalize your bioenergy, boost stamina, ease aches, and improve your mental focus. Shield yourself from electromagnetic frequencies emitted from cell phones, laptops, and other smart technologies. Restructure tap water, revitalize food, and harmonize everything around you. Elevate well-being with Lifespring, made in the USA. Order today from VanessaElston.com.
And we're back. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you.
We are having an amazing conversation here about vibrational frequencies. So we've ended up talking about how to match your frequency to actually get what it is that you're visualizing. So if you think rich people are bad, you're never actually going to be a rich person. You have to believe that, you know, it's okay to be a nice person and be rich, and they can't all be horrible. But what I want to move on to now, quick pivot, is how on earth did you discover that you could receive Hertz frequencies, specific Hertz frequencies that would heal physical ailments? Can you tell us about that? Because that's like, wow, even I'm like, wow over that one.
It's even more wow to me because I didn't know what it was. So when I started receiving information from the dead people speaking, I'm sorry, I know that's so irreverent, and I tend to be that way. I just say the dead people. They don't mind. It offends the live people. The dead people don't care. But I started getting those messages, and I realized I was getting psychic visions of past, present, and future. And then someone asked me to do a reading for them, which I didn't understand. I thought, I can't do this. I can't just call this automatically. But I tried. I said, sure, I'll just do it. And in preparing for that, I was getting this number, and it was a 528, 528, 528. So I wrote it down, and then 528H, 528HC, and something hit me. It's a Hertz, 528 Hertz. What is that? And I really can't tell you how it developed, but I started hearing these numbers for people that I would be talking to, and I would say, you need to listen to a 417 Hertz. And it just came. It's to the point now that people email all the time and say, what's my Hertz? Because what happens, there's a scale that I found out months after this started happening called, I think it's solfeggio scale. You probably know about it.
I've heard of that. How are you supposed to say it? If any of the viewers can give us a phonetic breakdown, we'd be very grateful.
I've read that word so many times. Solfeggio, I don't know, but something like that. And they have this scale that seems to relate to the chakras, and then perhaps some outside of the chakras. And I would be talking with someone, and then I would say, 417 Hertz, listen to this. Go find something on YouTube and just listen to it. Doesn't matter what, just find one that lights up. And they would read them, and it would be all about releasing negative energy or something. And it would be exactly what we were talking about. Someone would be in pain, and I would say, 174. Go listen to 174 Hertz. That's the number for you. And then we look it up, and it's pain relief. So now I'm quite familiar with these frequencies, all the way to 1111 and 999. And I do them. It's just something that psychically drops in for me when I'm speaking with not everyone, but if I'm speaking with someone, there it is. That's their number. And it's not a forever thing. It might be one time. I don't know. It's just, go listen to this now. This is what you need to do. I just have them lay down and meditate or something, and, just let it heal whatever is going on, emotional or physical. It seems to do both.
Isn't that fascinating, though? Because we've been talking about frequency and vibration, and we're talking about a vibrational sound that's going to have an effect, a healing effect on our own vibration. And it fascinates me because it's like a knowledge that we've lost, isn't it? You know, you think about ancient tribes, Aztecs, Egyptians, you know, always sound frequency is there in some respect, isn't it? So I wonder if in a past life, perhaps you were some sort of fabulous goddess of frequency in a, you know, more evolved culture, because I believe we've lost a great many of our natural healing abilities, our natural psychic abilities. And it's one of the reasons I want to next year start teaching what I do, because I do believe everybody can do it. But I do believe that women are a bit more tuned in than men are. And I think scientifically it's been proven that our pituitary gland, which is linked to extrasensory powers, is slightly, well, if not quite a bit larger than men's. What do you know about that?
I do. I totally agree with you that the pituitary gland and the pineal gland are very closely related. The pineal gland is considered the third eye. And in women, just typically more, this all area is just more developed. It just is. I don't really understand why, unless you look at the description of masculine energy and feminine energy. It's not really gender, it's the energy, right? The energy of that. And feminine energy is about compassion, mercy, right? It's really about that, where masculine energy is more about exploration and progress and that sort of thing. So that doesn't imply a lot of sitting back and allowing something, right? And that's what we do, as in that feminine energy. These messages, this information, it doesn't come when I'm running 90 miles an hour to go plow through something. It comes when I quiet myself and I focus and I sit and I let it come to me. I don't go get anything. It just, there it is. And that's quite a bit different, right? That is such a different thing. I love the idea that I could have been a great goddess of frequency. I'm going to hang on to that and play that line for all my friends. If you don't listen to anything else, listen to that. That's what she said. That's me, right? That's me. But yeah, it's so powerful. I know I heard a gong in something, in a sound bath not too long ago. I never knew how enveloping they were and how fabulous they were. And those were used Tibet. I mean, they were talking about ancient civilizations, and I, perhaps like you, believe that there are a lot more civilizations that have been on Earth, but have been totally wiped out, and we just don't even know. And I think sound is very much a part of that. I had someone ask me a question, what came first, light or sound? And the messages I got were, think about all of the religious stories about creation. They are usually somewhat like the Bible, where some God said, let there be light, right?
Yeah.
Sound first. They're the same end of a stick, right? It's just frequency at an audible, and light is frequency at a vibration we can see. But I know with sound, the human ear, our eyes can only see a certain, maybe one octave of, what's the measurement of light? I can't right now think of it, but
isn't it lux levels? Don't you measure it in lux levels? I think from my interior design days, we used to be out with lux meters.
Yeah, it is. This word is a funny one. We'll have to look it up. It's something. Shoot, it's what, I don't know. I can't remember. But in sound, we can hear 8 octaves. We are much more. Our sound hearing is much more perceptive than our sight as humans. The ear is the first thing to develop in utero, the inner ear.
Isn't that fascinating? Because that's all about protection, isn't it? Yeah. That you would hear danger coming, that you would hear a natural disaster. You know, if there's a tsunami or there's going to be a volcano exploding, you feel the rumble first, don't you? Yes. And you innately know that you need to start running. Yeah. And I know when I've had a couple of tricky things. You know, anyone that's lived in London's been nearly mugged or what have you. I heard them come. There's no way you're going to get my Prada bag. Anyway, let me tell you, And
Ah,
I've never got
oh,
any
listen,
money.
I'd be holding on to mine. Mm-mm.
I've never got any money in my purse, but my makeup bag's worth a fortune. So back off. And we've all got that story. But the only reason I never got mugged was because I heard them coming. I've got really good hearing. I could almost, as they were about to put their hands on me, I was sort of around rescuing myself. So it's very
Love
interesting.
that. That's a great story. Sorry.
I love the fact that, because people don't think about their senses, do they? We think, oh, if I haven't seen it, well, I need to see it with my own eyes. And I love what you said earlier. I need to feel it. When I'm deciding to do something, how does it feel in my heart? If I want to do business with that person, how does it feel when I jump on a Zoom call with them? And if I think that they're arrogant or they seem a bit greedy, and that's my initial thing, do you know what? It's probably not going to work, is it?
I'm out, right? I'm out. Yeah, that's it. That gut feeling, that sense is a different way of operating that we have. But that sound, that, hear it and then feel it. It's amazing to me that we do all as humans see it. We all talk about seeing, but your sight will definitely deceive you. Your ears rarely will. That vibration and sound, why would it not be healing? It is. It's amazing.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, just in a court of law, people have very often proven that it is proven that they couldn't possibly have seen something. But it's very rarely established that somebody heard something incorrectly. And that I find I find the law quite interesting, actually. So, because it's the base of all our cultures, really, isn't it? What's right and wrong. And it's a bit like frequency. A lot of people ask me, well, can you use it negatively? And I said, well, we could, but it would come back at us really negatively. So if you look at stories of old witchcraft and witches that were putting hexes and negative spells on people, they looked about 3,000 years old, didn't they? It didn't do much for their sort of beauty regime. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
That's so great. I was just talking to some friends that were here this morning about karma. And you said if you were to use this frequency in a negative way, it would just come back to you. And I think, of course, it would. Anything that we do out of, I call that out of fear or control. I want to control something, and I'm afraid I don't have all the information, so I'm in fear of it, and so I function in that way. That karma is not next lifetime, and this is just an idea, but I think this is a very good one. Karma is not the next lifetime, and it's not next week. Karma is immediate. Because we are all connected and we are all one, the separation we have is completely perceived, which we want it to be, right? We want this experience and this reality of that. But what I do to you, I immediately do to myself, like that. There is no real past or future. Everything is in the moment, quantum physics, right? Everything is in this moment. And that's difficult for us to conceive of in this reality because we experience linear time and we are so in it. We really believe it in this way. It's how we experience everything. So to think of something not taking time to come back to you, but frequency would be just like that in a way,
Well,
right?
yeah,
You fire frequency at something, it's going to bounce right back at you. How are you just going to fire frequency and not get it back yourself?
Boomeranging straight back at you. And the other thing people don't realize is that if you do really bad stuff, karma could keep it for ages. And just when you're about to enjoy something really nice, it'll come and pull the rug from under your feet, because there's no getting away from karma. She's evil. She's got your number. She knows where you live. And if you don't treat her nicely, she will slap you. That's the way I look at karma.
That's so funny.
It's just like the bad aunt, isn't she? The bad aunt will be lovely. She'll give you sweet, she'll make you a nice dinner, but don't mess with her. Because you will get an earful.
And it's so funny because I think if I had developed some of these psychic abilities before I had worked to raise my perspective, to really understand my connection. As I raised my perspective, I began more and more to understand my connection with everyone and everything in a different way. That having these abilities that I have could be very much used to manipulate and control. And I wonder if I would have done that.
Well,
I don't
I've
think
asked
so.
my, yeah, I don't,
But in
you
all
like to
honesty,
think you
I thought,
wouldn't, don't you? You like to think you wouldn't, but would you, without having been through the journeys that we've been through, when we've learnt the value of honesty, vulnerability, authenticity, only ever speaking the truth, and only ever trying to put out the ripple of niceness, because as you said, we're all connected. So if I go out of my house, I try and say something lovely to anybody that I come in touch with, because then the ripple goes out and we're raising the vibration, and a minuscule amount, but if we all did it, who knows what could happen.
Right. You just have no idea when you follow that. That's an inspiration of yours, right? When you follow your inspiration, which is perhaps you have this intention to say something nice, but in the moment you see someone and you're inspired and you reach out, that does so much more for you than it does for that person. I'm well aware of it when I do things, when I teach and people say, "You've changed my life." And I want to chuckle because I say, look, it feels wonderful to know that you got something out of it. But what I get from teaching or giving a compliment is so far and away bigger and better and more impactful than anything I could ever give out there. It's just, my intention is just, let's just express my love, because when I do, man, it's so selfish. It's completely selfish because it just comes
And
back.
it's so different to that 1980s greed is good, work really hard, get the best deal you can get. It's like, what, it's 360. It's like, here to serve, and everything will be okay. And I'm probably going to work slower than I've ever worked in my life, and yet reap more benefits, which is a weird one, isn't it? To get your
It is
head
a weird
around,
one,
really.
Vanessa. I wonder if that to some extent comes with our maturity. I guess so. It makes sense. Everything comes with that, but it's just that I just don't need the kudos and the stuff and the things that that made me feel worth something 10 years ago, 20 years ago. That's what gave me value.
Yeah, but
Right?
look how we were branded to. I mean, the 1980s was the explosion of designer brands, wasn't it? You weren't perfect if you didn't have a Chanel lipstick and a Chanel suit and a Chanel bag. And God forbid that you didn't have a pair of, Louis Vuitton something or whatever.
Manola Blahniks, baby. Yeah, you had,
Oh,
and I still love that. I love to get out, an Hermes bag and that goes with the stuff and care. I love it. And I really treasure those things, but it's not the same. I treasure the quality of it and the craftsmanship, how it feels when I hold it. I don't care if anyone ever sees it. That's different for me.
yeah.
Before it would have been all about making sure it was out in front of me and
Yeah.
that everyone knew it was.
My lovely new bag.
Yeah.
Let me put my lovely bag in front of you, just so you know.
Yes. And if I went out and no one saw it, I didn't have a good time. That was a disappointing day. Wait, hold on. And it just naturally evolved. I didn't, make a conscious decision to be different. It just, all of a sudden I noticed, wow, that's different. I still like the same things in many ways. The reasoning behind it is different, and how it plays in my life is different.
I appreciate, I love Armani, and I appreciate the cuts, the choice of fabric, the way it hangs, the fact that it suits my body shape. I'd love to wear Valentino, but I'm not voluptuous, and I just look like, well, somebody said I looked like a skinny hooker last time I went to a shop, friend of mine. I was like, what do you think, darling? And she just went, like, they're the friends you want to go shopping with, aren't you? You don't want to spend a fortune on Valentino and come out looking like that. But, well, honesty, I've got no shame, really. You know what us Brits are like. But listen, sadly, it feels like we've been chatting for 5 minutes, but we're coming to the end of the show. So I'd like you to give some advice to our viewers about how, well, 3 top tips, if you will, how to get on the right vibration to improve your life and create your future, really, the future that you really do have a taste for.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is a baseline that I work with, which is that my life or my experiences don't happen to me, they happen for me. And so as things occur, whether I feel positive emotion or negative emotion when they occur, is stop and say, this is not happening to me. This is happening for me. And now, what can I see in this? What is the love that's going to come out of this? How can I turn this into what belief about myself can I see? That's it. That would be the first one I would say is it's not happening to you. It's happening for you. That's an interesting way to frame things.
Well, it is. I'm picking up on what we were saying about, could we do our jobs effectively? Could we be effective healers if we hadn't had long and interesting lives, really, and dealt with more than our, probably most people's fair share of challenges, frankly? Sorry to interrupt, but, that's how we've come to appreciate that sentiment. But it's a hard learning for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yes, yes. I get that. I know that it is, but at the time, I'm 57 years old. By the time I can look back at my life, and I promise you, Vanessa, there were things that I went through. I thought, I'm not going to make it through this. This is the worst thing in the world. It was, greatest fear or whatever it was. And now looking back on it, I could drop to my knees in gratitude for them, because without them, I wouldn't be right here. And right here is right where I want to be. So I just know, I've talked to too many people that are the same. So why not be there when you're going through it? Why not say, okay, it's all right to feel this way. It's all right to feel bad, but I still know that on the other side of this is for me. There is something here for me. It's a much different way to approach it, right? I think the next thing that I would say to someone to get themselves on the right frequency is to understand inspiration, to listen to those things that you just feel like you want to do, whether it's pull over here, turn left, call this person, do this, do that, and push past the fear of doing it. And the fear is insidious. It is not, the fear might be, I'm too tired. She's probably too busy. I'll be late if I do that, right? That's the fear that pops up after every inspiration that you're given, that you receive. Follow it anyway. Push past the fear of, I wouldn't be good at it. She doesn't want to talk to me. I'll be late for work if I do that. And just try it. Just try following inspiration once a day and pushing past the fear to do it, and watch your life change. Just watch. That, to me, has been an incredible change in how I function. And the third thing would be to do something new every day. Whether that is write your name with your non-dominant hand, get up out of bed on the other side of the bed. I don't care what it is. Walk a different way, but do one new thing every single day. And I think those 3 together would get anyone on an incline in their frequency. Does that make sense?
No, interesting. I mean, that what you've said is not dissimilar to what other people have said before. And, it should have real resonance with people, because these are common practices that really can change your trajectory, aren't they? I mean, it doesn't matter where you are today. And I really want to hammer this home to anyone that's listening that's having a really tough time. We've had tough times. That's why we're smiling now, and that's why, because we've overcome them. We feel quite powerful and strong, actually. But we've been in states of desperation, and we've come out of it because we've had faith that the experience will teach us something, and that we are able now to be effective healers because we have compassion and understanding, because we haven't, frankly, always had it easy. So if you are on your, a bit down on your luck at the moment, it's mindset change. And following Christy's fantastic top tips, you could be in a different situation next week, next month, next year, but you have to believe it. So is there anything else you'd like as a final word just to say to our viewers? Because this has been an amazing conversation. I wish we had another hour.
I do too. This has been absolutely fantastic. And I think that if everyone begins to understand that this reality, this life that they're living really is something that is a gift, and it is for you, even the tough times and the times when you think you cannot go on, it's worth it to do so, because there's nothing else like this. To feel, taste, touch, laugh, cry, punch someone, whatever it might be, this is happening. You chose this. This is for you. And no matter what it is that is happening in the moment, you are okay. In this very moment, you are okay. And when you stop and realize that in every moment, you are okay. I am okay. If you can think that thought, you are okay. Then that's sort of this baseline of something starts to shift. And it's amazing when it does.
It is amazing. It is amazing. So you heard it here first. Everything's okay. And you're having a tough time, when you're feeling panicked, when you can't sleep at night, everything's okay. And the other thing I'd like to add to that is everything always works out for me. Make that your mantra and you will see your life change. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today. Thank you so much for your wonderful words of wisdom. I hope you'll come back in the future and drop a few more bombs for us. Well, bombs of wisdom, I should add quickly, not a sort of attack of any sort. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I can't thank you enough. I wish we had another hour. And to our lovely viewers, thank you so much for tuning in again. And please join me next week, Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, on the Limelight Network on E360 TV. In love and light, everybody.